Hard Hat's all about showing up to play hard, doing what it takes to win.
If you want to cement legacy, win another.
He's your third center.
You don't want to pump him up too much, but it's hard not to.
This is maybe the most I've ever agreed with you.
Woo! Here we go, playoffs.
Yeah,
John's not as excited.
I am. We did it, Bobby. Cut the music. Cut it. Welcome to a breaking news edition of the Garden Report. And yeah, we're in the playoffs and we have an opponent and we know what is going to happen now. The Celtics will play. Which one's the good one, Amit? Put up the good one. I don't want to put up the wrong one.
The Orlando Magic.
We
First
know
time
that,
since
Bobby.
2010.
There it is. Game 1 Sunday. We don't know the time yet. My guess is they want to see what some of the other matchups are and decide if this really is the worst game, in which case it'll be the 1 o'clock, or if it's the second worst game and it might be the 4 o'clock. We'll see. It's messing with my Easter brunch, Bobby. I'll tell you that. But
yeah, mine's ruined.
Ruined.
What are you going to do?
Ruined. Worse for you guys. Worse for you guys. You got to be there. I was going to go. I'll go to game 2, but I was going to go for game 1. I can't do that and host.
Why the hell did it have to be Sunday? Whatever. We're blessed.
As Noah would say, you got Boston. Orlando got Boston. That was your prize here. Do wonder, I guess there's no tanking is silly when you could lose. So you can't really tank for an opponent in a situation like this because then you got to go and win another. And Atlanta's in a bad way. As much as we made fun of Orlando's offense, my God, Atlanta was really, really messed up without, when it wasn't Trey-centric, they really couldn't do anything. But anyway, couple things just to let you guys know when we get started. Of course, you are watching the Garden Report here, proud member of the CLNS Media Network. And the show, as always, is brought to you by several sponsors, including Prize Picks, #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. Download that app today. Use the code CLNS, get 50 instantly when you play 5. Again, code CLNS, get 50 instantly when you play 5. Prize Picks, run your game. And of course, Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You're going to need it here for the playoffs. Go check it out. Great deals already. Download that Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS, $20 off your first purchase. Once again, download that Game Time app. $20 off your first purchase when you import the code CLNS. What time is it? Of course, it's game time. And what time is it? Time to talk a little bit about the Orlando Magic. Everyone, all of you guys agreed. I had taken the contrarian view that Atlanta might be tougher, mainly because I just don't think Orlando can score. But watching Atlanta tonight, I'd like to take that one back. They're a mess of a team right now. Obviously, the injuries have taken their toll. I can't see. This was the battle for who gets swept by the Celtics. I couldn't have seen either of these teams getting a game off of Boston. But I do think you're right in the assessment, Bobby, that it's going to be harder. This will be a harder matchup because Orlando is physical and they play defense, and it might not be pretty and it might be a little bit frustrating. And there's going to be times where it feels like a rock fight, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and what shocked me today, our good friend Matt Moore over there, who covers the league at large, sent me the stats that the Magic have limited the Celtics to some of their fewest three-point attempts in games all season. I think it's like 3 of the bottom 10 that the Celtics have shot in a game. And you got to throw away that last matchup. Wouldn't take anything from that because no one played. But the first game, Celtics only shot 33 threes. Magic ended up tying them in that game, beat them in that game that Tatum sat out with the illness. And then the second game, it was 37-32. Celtics end up shooting more threes in that game and won pretty handily. That was the game that really got them right in January when things looked like they were going sideways there. So it feels like, especially those first 2 games, that the Celtics are going to have an edge here. They're going to be fresh. They're going to be able to, probably rain down threes over this team if they can focus on producing them and have a massive advantage in that department. And, I'm going to have to go back and look at why they didn't build such a big advantage in those games. It actually really surprised me that they didn't have such a drastic edge, given that, John, they're the, most prolific three-point shooting team in the league, and the Magic don't even take threes. The fact that it was close in those games does raise a little bit of an alarm for me. And you know how it is with me, John. I'm going to look for every single way to say that this is going to be a series. It probably won't be, but I think out of any play-in team in the East that you could imagine, the Heat, what was left of the Heat at this point, the Bulls, who had a little bit of an ascendance late in the year, but really aren't that good, Hawks, who are just a shell of themselves. This is actually a real team right here. And I know it's a different year, and I know it's been a much different season for them, but remember last year, they won that 5th seed race with like 3 or 4 teams. They played the Cavs, who, looking at what the Cavs are now and what they could have been last year if they didn't get hurt. And they took the Cavs to 7 games in round 1. And it was a absolute rock fight. Like every game was the ugliest game you've ever seen. Game 7, went right down to the wire, and the Cavs just barely scrapped it out. And more importantly, John, barely made it out alive. Like everybody on that team was just demoralized physically after. Remember, Jared Allen had broken ribs for that Celtics series. Mitchell barely survived going into the next series, played 3 games, and he was done. So I think that's your fear for the Celtics here is you're not going to lose this series, but are you going to come out of this series in one piece against this team? The way they just smack you around and foul and just play with reckless abandon defensively, all the size that they have and the physicality inside. This is going to be a rough series physically, and I'm
It is.
really
I mean, look, this is they're second in defensive efficiency here, so you know that they're gonna beat you up. And again, we're not gonna go down that Jaylen rabbit hole just yet, but obviously, if he's not as effective, and again, encouraging signs from practice today, we'll hear from some of the guys. And Bobby Manning was there, so he'll give you his insights as well. But they can't score. We know they're good on defense. They just can't score. They're 27th in points per 100 possessions on the year. They did have massive critical injuries that really dragged those numbers down throughout the year when you're missing your top players for huge chunks of time. But I mean, maybe the saddest thing we saw, Bobby, was the Orlando starters playing the Celtics Stay Ready crew and not able to put up 100 points a week ago. That's the game where everybody walks away like, yeah, I I don't see it. But you do have they can throw bodies at Tatum. Jonathan Isaac is somebody who's going to be annoying as F in this series defensively, and that's a problem. And so we just gotta. I'm not going to say you're going to count on the other guys to carry you. I think there's a lot of guys on the Celtics who can, do what they need to do on their own. But Tatum's going to have to be a little bit of a facilitator, especially, like I said, if Brown can't get it going, hunting matchups on his own. And, there could be times where you're looking at what you're watching from the Celtics offense might not look great, but that's because Orlando's making it hard. So they'll make it hard at times. I just can't see them doing enough to win.
Yeah, and the way they're going to make it the hardest is that they're just going to take away the 3 from the Celtics completely. They're going to sell out. I'm looking at it right now. They allow the fewest 3-point attempts in the league by 3 threes over the Rockets. So they're going to switch everything. They're going to play up. They're going to foul rather than give up a 3. And the Celtics are going to have to find ways inside to score. And that's obviously Tatum's dribble drives into traffic. I was texting you, John, today. After what we saw from Young tonight and how he handled some of the officiating and what they allowed the Magic to do, I'm very interested to see how that's going to go. Jaylen is going to be a key there, and he lit them up in these games, even without the 3. So, his ability to penetrate and get inside is going to be crucial and not turn the ball over because his turnovers ticked up a little bit in this matchup. And then, of course, Porzingis, who I don't believe was well, he was there for the second one, had a great game, but he wasn't there for the first one. Obviously wasn't there for the last one. No one was. He's going to be the real swing guy in this series because he's going to be the one banging with the big bodies. He's going to be the one having to attack the switches. If the Magic are going to switch everything and take the 3s away, it's going to be Porzingis versus Black. It's going to be Porzingis versus Cole Anthony. And we know that he's capable of devastating, teams that way. But we've talked about it a little bit at times this year, John. Does it just become Porzingis post up every single possession? And a lot of guys standing around at that point. And more importantly, can the Celtics speed this up a little bit? Because I've mentioned it a few times recently, John. The Celtics went down to the bottom of the league in pace late this season. And that's got to be something the Magic are really excited about going into this series, that Boston doesn't want to run or can't run with Brown being in the health situation that he's in right now. And that's obviously been the biggest factor, I think, in their decline pace-wise here. So this is going to be hard. I think this I might be wrong. I'll admit, because I know what everyone in the chat's going to say. Oh, Bobby's at it again, saying that. I'll admit that this could be a sweep, and a week from now I'll be sitting here like, oop, never mind. But as I look at it right now and what I watched tonight and just how well the Magic played to close the season, I think they've won like 9 to 12 or something like that leading up to this. I think they're a really tough matchup for the Celtics. And we've said that for years, John, watching them in the regular season. This team, they've beat the Celtics in 4 straight games at home. And 2, one of them was fake, obviously, a week ago. But 2 of those were really good wins. That play-in tournament game last year, where everyone was going crazy celebrating like they won the championship. And then the one early this year, like I said, Tatum goes out with the illness right before the game. But that was a really good win for an Orlando team that just lost Mo Wagner going into that game. Jalen Suggs is out. It's a huge loss. Wagner's still out. The bench stinks. They don't score at all. And that's another area that the Celtics could really take advantage of them here. But
So what are you saying? Magic in 5?
Magic in 5? No, there's unless health crumbles on the Celtics side, I don't think the Magic can win this series with that offense. But can they win 2 games? I think it's possible.
Oh boy. So we will do a playoff preview show, an official one later in the week. And when Bobby says that, you guys can yell at him then. But
I'm not predicting that yet. I'm just
he's
saying
not predicting it yet, so
feasible.
don't give it to him. Don't give it to him yet. Don't give it to him yet. So
meanwhile, Noah's devastated, but she's not going to Atlanta. That's why she couldn't appear tonight.
So is Amit.
Yeah. I'm thrilled. 80 degrees, Disney years, golf. This is my preference.
That's not what we pay you for.
Oh yeah, and the games.
Golf.
There's an off day, John. Come on.
Going to Disney. Can you bring my kids with you? Bucket hats. There's so many good things there. Yeah, we did invite Noah and Sherrod on the show, but they need a break too. This is a nice restful week to kind of get away from things a little bit here. I'll ask the chat here. Anything stand out for you guys watching Orlando that makes you think, and again, we've talked about some of it, but like,
I think the fans are going to admit this is a tricky matchup.
Tell me your worst. Tell me your, there's going to be a contingent that says season 4, but somebody tell me something that concerns them here about this. And again, we know the defense for sure. I will say, and I don't want to look up the numbers before I say it because there was something I wanted to look up. I'll let you go, Bobby, while I look something up.
Well, when I looked at these 2 teams, and I get all the fans who look at it and say easiest path, take the easier matchup here, and that was obviously Atlanta, given where they were health-wise and all of that. To me, I actually think this will be good for them. And again, that physical aspect, I do want to put an asterisk there because you got to get out of the series healthy. If you come out of this series battered and bruised, that's not conducive. But if you do stay healthy in this series, I think the switching that the Magic can pull off here is really going to be a good test for Boston. I think winning games when the 3's not there is going to be a nice test for them. That's going to happen later down the line, potentially. So you got to get used to it now. And there's some real star power in this series, John. Like Banchero, he had his ups and downs in this one today. And he usually does offensively. He's still not a super efficient scorer yet, but he gets to the free throw line in droves. There was a stretch to start this game where he just looked so confident. The Hawks were throwing a bunch of pressure at him, and he was just passing out of it with ease, with some swagger, I felt like, too. And he, again, another guy with a massive body on this team who can really play you physically.
Who starts on him?
It's a good question, right? Because you'd assume Jaylen, but where's Jaylen at right now?
We don't know. That's the wild card because it changes a couple things both offensively in terms of how they're going to defend Tatum if Brown's not all the way there. Again, we have no reason. We're not certain that that's the case, and we will get into Brown and what they were saying about him today and what he looked like today at practice. But then the reverse side there. I don't know what you're doing defensively against against Boncaro, because he can be tough. He had a rough start to this game for sure. This was not his best night.
Shooting wise, but he was passing great.
But they the defensively, they decided that they were just going to throw 4 guys at him, so he didn't have much choice. It was so he passed out of it, and he's really one of those ascending players. Like, there's a little bit of Tatum in his game in the sense that, like, for a guy who's young still in this league, he reads the floor really well. I really like a lot about his game.
So I'm looking at the matchups from earlier in the year, and Tatum missed the first game and still logged the most time against them. So I'm guessing it'll be Tatum, based on what happened in the previous game there. Horford logged a little bit of time on him as well. Jaylen actually didn't guard him a ton. Holiday did more than Jaylen. So
So I was wondering if Holiday mixes in there too. So maybe Drew. Drew or Horford, I think makes more sense.
Drew makes
than
sense,
Tatum.
right? Yeah.
But it's tough though. I mean, because he's one of those guys where that physicality. He's got the physicality to body up Holiday, and he's much taller. So that's gonna be a tough one. At best, you're making it harder for him, but it's not going to be great. One of the things I know we talked about is how the bench is going to fare in a game like this. Versus a team like Orlando, or we talked about the bench guys and the Celtics being, generally speaking, not one of the most athletic teams out there, and how their bench might hold up in certain matchups. I don't know across the board, but I will say that Peyton Pritchard struggled against Orlando this year.
3 of 7 in the first game with 7 points, minus 12, 2 of 3 in the second game, 4 points with 4 turnovers.
Exactly, and then
couldn't get shots off.
Couldn't get the shots off. He couldn't get the shots off against this team. And then he had
remember he struggled in that last game too.
Yeah, the 35-minute performance in the scrub time game when the Celtics sat everybody. So again, you can toss that one out. So
I don't think they're gonna be able to play Davison in this matchup, John.
No. So that one's a little bit that's definitely something there where early on in round 1 you're already like, well, crap. So look, what are we gonna do here? We're not doomers. I walked in starting the show saying we have to go through the exercise, right? I started the show saying Celtics in 4. So this isn't doomer sort of analysis. However, we're just going to spend the rest of the time trying to figure out what it is that Orlando could do that can make this challenging. That's one thing there. When you talk about the trickle-down effect, and again, so much hinges on Jaylen. If he's close to 100%, you really don't have any of these worries. But if he's not, and he's limited offensively, you're neutralizing that as an offensive threat. You're going to have guys, and they're going to throw a lot of bodies at Tatum. And then if you have Pritchard struggling like he has with this team and with the switching and just not being able to get his shot off against this longer, more athletic, Magic team, like he did in the first 2 times they played this year. Now you're at a little bit of a scoring deficit over what you're used to doing, which means Tatum's going to have to pass his ass off out of doubles all game long. And that means White and Holiday and Horford and Porzingis have to knock down their shots. And you're still gonna be hunting that KP situation there, and you're gonna be getting him touches, for sure. But I'm curious. These are a couple of things you're looking at as things that could be challenging.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's potentially challenging here. Now, the KP advantage, I think, is a real one for you in this series. The double big is going to come in handy here. And I'm actually imagining the Celtics being thrilled that they can put that out there in this matchup and have it succeed and have it be a real strength for them here. And like we said, no Wagner. So, you're only going to be seeing Wendell Carter, who got pretty banged up in this game. The ankle turn early, and then the knee looked like he bumped knees later. So he came out of this game pretty banged up, even though he played great. And then you have Isaac, whom you mentioned, and Goga Bitadze, who was getting into it with Porzingis in that first game. So, they still have tons of big bodies there, including Franz and Paolo, who are obviously more perimeter players. But you have Horford and Porzingis. And then, what are we, 20 minutes in, John? I think Luke's a strength in this matchup. I think he is.
Did I say anything else?
I think he can play. I think he can slip, when the Magic are switching. I think he can beat some of the smaller guys if they try to switch on to him. I think we're going to see some of those, float shots here and offensive rebounds and all the stuff he's been doing. And then, yeah, of course, you're going to need him to be able to protect the rim and not foul in this matchup too, as Jason said there. The most important thing in this series by far, John, is for them to not foul. The Magic are going to try like hell to make them foul. They're going to smash into them. They're going to initiate contact. They're going to be on the boards. Foul trouble is actually something that could come into play a little bit for the Celtics here. And then I mentioned at the top of the show, can Tatum play through the contact? Can he not be consumed by the officiating like we saw with Trae Young tonight? Those are going to be things that are just going to happen here. Like there's going to be a rough officiating game that they have to deal with. There's going to be contact. There's going to be fouls, on them that they don't like. Banchero's game, you saw it early in this one, is to just smash into the front line and try to draw contact and go to the free throw line there. And, he's been drawing those in droves this year. So they just, I don't, if Jimmy was here, John, he'd be asking, like, are they ready to get in the mud here? Are they ready to play physical? Are they ready to play this style of game? I don't have doubt about it. I feel like we've seen them go to that before. And Porzingis, I actually think, is pretty well suited to, start battling physically inside, especially on the offensive end, against those smaller guys that he's going to have on him. But it's the reality of the series. Like, this is not going to be a pretty series. This is not going to be a series that they come out and shoot 1,000,000 threes and, just outskill the Magic in. They're going to have to win this on the boards. They're going to have to get their own stops and really strangle the Magic's offense and make it not close in that regard. They're going to have to be able to deal with some of the foul calls that go both ways in this one. That's my biggest concern, John, is that the Magic are going to dictate the way that this series is played a little bit, because I don't think the Celtics have great tools right now to counteract it.
Okay.
Unless Jaylen's himself. That would be a big plus.
It is a trickle down, and we have no choice but to talk about it, but we're not sitting here speculating or giving you conspiracy theories, even though we have a few. We're just going to give you the news, and then we're going to talk about how we feel and what Bobby saw, because a reporter, and he's out there, and he's in the field, and he gets to do cool stuff. He's keeping an eye on the Jaylen Brown situation, and he got to talk to some people and see him. So we'll get Bobby's take on that in a minute. First off, we do want to tell you about our pals over at Game Time. And again, check out Game Time if you want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. This is where you want to go here. Game Time is great feature. You want to find seats to hard to get into events like the Celtics playoffs is going to be, all in pricing. Great feature, which you toggle that feature to start and you get it all up front. No hidden fees at checkout. The panoramic views from your seat is phenomenal. You really get to see exactly what it is that you're paying for. Lowest price guarantee, 110%. Game Time will credit you 110% the difference if you find a better deal, and you do have ticket coverage. So again, it's great. Take that guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, that is code CLNS. Terms do apply. And let me see what we have here. Put it on the screen for you, because we might have a little, let's see. Stop this thing. Stop it. I'm going to put this up here, and we're going to see what we've got for this first game, Bobby. Let's check it out. Pretty good seats. Pretty good
not
deals.
bad for.
It's not bad for a playoff game. If you want to get in here, it's Sunday. I
see 97 way up there.
Yeah, it's 2 Easters on Sunday. It's
Think that's why it's a little lower.
Who knows? It's also the Magic, and it's also game 1, and it's also who cares. But again,
we don't know what time the damn game is.
We don't know what time the damn game is, but you can get in here. Some pretty good deals on Game Time, so definitely go check that out. Prices do drop the closer you get to Game Time. You want to roll the dice and you want to wait on it. That's cool too. But great opportunity here to get in, see the Celtics as they begin their title defense officially Sunday here at the Garden. Let's get back to it, Bobby. And again, I think the Jaylen Brown stuff is what people are. It's the wild card, right? Well, no, it's the wild card. You don't really know. But he was a full participant in Celtics practice, whatever that means. I mean, he played. They sent out a little social media propaganda video too, that featured him featured him in it.
Scrimmaging.
Yeah, scrimmaging. But look, I mean, he's out there. He's playing. When we just to let you know, when they open the curtains, just for people who don't know, you go to Celtics practice and they're practicing, and it's behind, like basically,
A curtain.
a curtain, a blind, a drop down. And so we can't see anything. You hear them practicing on the court, but all the media is upstairs waiting to get down there at the end of practice when we get to talk to the players. And then they raise it up, and it's usually after practice has ended and everyone's kind of going through their work. You're seeing, some one-on-one stuff. Guys are working on stuff, shooting free throws, still going
Practice
through
is
some drills.
over when we get in.
Practice is
effectively.
basically over. Some games of horse and just goofing around. Guys are doing their own thing. Some guys take off and they go do their own thing. They go get treatment. They go work out. They get in the tub, whatever. But that's where we saw Jaylen just kind of hanging around and doing his thing. And again, it's not a bad thing to see him because we haven't seen him.
I wasn't expecting to see him today.
Didn't expect to see him. And he's out there, and he was shooting around, and he was doing his thing.
In good
for a little
spirits,
bit.
too, smiling, laughing.
Good spirits. Didn't talk, but I would imagine we will get him at some point this year. We also didn't get to see pictures of
I
his
hope
knees.
we get him this year.
Yeah, I mean this week leading into the practice. His knees are covered, so we don't know what's going on down there. But again, good to see him out there, and good in terms of talking to the players. They seem to be pretty excited about. I mean, I'll put it this way: they didn't seem to think there was much to worry about at all. Put it up here.
Yep, yeah, everybody was able to go through practice.
What's the plan for him? Obviously, he was playing on a minutes
Here
limit.
comes a
late
very
in the year.
informative answer.
Obviously, playoffs is going to be a bigger minutes load for guys. Working his way back up toward that full minutes load for the playoffs.
I mean, just take it one day at a time as he continues to get better and better.
He looked good to me. I think JB is going to be JB in terms of not showing weakness. Everything is about not showing weakness, and for him and being able to bring the strongest mentally and physically. So nobody's worried about him. We all know that he wants to be out on the court every time we play. But we also know he's going to be prepared when the time comes.
He looked great today. I was very happy to see him out there doing everything. So it's a really good sign for us. And then to answer your question, it's tough. I feel like there's a lot of things that he kind of has to, that you have to deal with when you're in that position. Jaylen is very strong mentally, and I feel like he finds a way, and he's the type that he's out here putting in the work and trying to get himself ready to go, and he understands what's in front of us, and I know that mentally he's going to be in a good place.
So you tell me. I mean, what did we learn? Nothing. But he's out there, which is good. I'll put it this way.
I think what today gave us confidence in is that he will be ready to go Sunday.
Yeah, if you weren't out there, immediately you'd be like, okay, so waiting for the shot to kick in, still ramping, resting full treatment. What's going on? Are they saving him? Is he, trying to stretch it out as far as he can? The fact that he's back out there and practicing certainly bodes well for all systems go Monday. Any uncertainty, which I didn't really think there was really a chance. I think if there's a problem with Jaylen, and if the injury is legit in the sense that it's legit the kind of thing that's going to continue to pester him, not that it exists at all, but if it's the type of injury that's going to be a pain management throughout the playoffs, what you're going to encounter is ups and downs. Like there's going to be good days, bad days. Today it was really barking. Today I didn't, the other day it didn't feel nearly as bad, and you might see inconsistencies. And if there were ever going to be a time where he got shut down, my guess is it would have been later, where something just didn't feel right or whatever. But I didn't think that was gonna. I didn't think his presence was ever in jeopardy here.
No, and
I never at any point thought we'd reach up. I never thought we'd be in this week thinking, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Sort of thing. I assumed he plays at whatever state or capacity he's in. And we'll go from there. Nothing.
Yeah.
We will learn nothing until you watch game one. Nothing.
The shot introduced some uncertainty there because we know what it was. We know what the treatment or timeline of said shot was, but obviously, as we heard, it was a pain-killing sort of deal, and uh, he's able to get right back out there after that and look good here. And we got the little clips, John, of him dunking and him participating in the scrimmage, which I think says a little bit about him, being able to participate at this point. Now, is that for 30 minutes? Is that for 40 minutes in a playoff game at this point? That's what I wanted to glean a little bit from Joe here, but I'm not surprised that we don't know that yet. And so that's the next question here. We know he's going to be ready to go for Sunday. Is it 30 minutes? Is it 25 minutes? Is it 35 minutes? Because those are all very different things, and it changes your rotation, and it puts us in a different position in terms of, all right, what are we expecting from him this postseason?
Yeah, there's two things. Is he on a restriction? Are they going game by game to see how he feels? Or is it just, he just does what he normally does? Full go. So you don't really know. You know me, I love to parse through sound bites, but I also think there's not much you can glean from that. I think you want to talk about the positive and the negative. I'd say Horford saying he did everything and he looked good to me was positive. I think Holiday saying things like don't show weakness and he's tough and we know that he's going to be out there is almost like warrior mentality sort of stuff, which I don't like as much. That was the tone of more of Holiday's post-game stuff. He's a tough guy. He's just going to be out there toughing it out sort of thing. And that's kind of what they've been saying. So I guess it comes down to, that's funny who I talk to. If you're talking to people behind the scenes, and if everyone out there who's like, oh, these guys and their conspiracy theories and this and that, I'll tell you outright, every single media member, whether they say it publicly or not, is like, what's going on with Jaylen? And it's been everybody, every single one, every single person in the media that covers this team.
We had Gasper on the other day.
Even the friendly, sunny guys that you think only say positive things, they're all like, it's kind of weird. What we can't, the two camps, Bobby, that are here, which crack me up the most, is it's a legit injury that was managed. Who knows how it was managed, but it's going to bother him the whole time. And then there's the other camp completely on the other side, which I'd never even entertained as a thought. I actually did weeks ago when I thought Jaylen was talking about a knee injury that wasn't real, that he was making excuses because he wasn't playing well. There's a huge faction of people who believe it's kind of bullshit and Jaylen's just being a little dramatic and he's 100% fine, which is a way better outcome than actually hurt. Then he's bone on bone and in excruciating pain and he's going to go out there at 50% is the bad one. The Jaylen's being a little bit dramatic about this and he's fine is the best case scenario by far. But I'd never really entertained that one. But I'm surprised how many people I talk to behind the scenes who won't go on the record saying this because it's speculation and you're not supposed to do that, who kind of think I think he's hamming it up a little bit.
Yeah. And just knowing Jaylen, talking to him, hearing what he says over the years here and just how he handles media speculation, I don't think he minds being in that position of everyone wondering how he's going to look, everyone saying, oh, is he hurt? Is this going to, kill the team here? And then him coming out in that first game and scoring 30, as we've all imagined is going to happen here. And I can't wait for the chat reaction that night because we all know it's coming. We all know that that's what's going to happen here. But I do think there's something here, John. Bone bruise, whatever it is. And his ability to handle that and play well through it is the only question we've had this whole way. That's all that matters here. And so far, we've seen the nights where it looks great, and we've seen the nights where it doesn't look as great. But I'll say this, looking back today at those 7 games after he sat the 3, he shot 50 from the field, shot 40 from 3. A small sample there, probably some teams that weren't great. But he found a way to play well through whatever this is, whether it's something awful, whether it's something minor. We've seen that he's capable of playing through it and playing well through it at this point. So if he's out there, if he's available, this is how it goes. We're going to judge him based on his normal standard here. And so the moment he gets back out there, I think the expectation is going to be for him to play well. I think the expectation is going to be for him to play a lot. And so we've had this debate, John. They can get by without him for some amount of time here. I don't think there's any rush to have him back out there for game 1 if it's not full go, full Jaylen. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to play through some pain, but you're not worried about his availability or his health or whatever the questions might be there. So I think he's going to be out there Sunday. But once he is, we're just going to judge him. It's not going to be something where he doesn't play well and we're just like, oh, he's hurt. He's not in a good spot right now, but he's toughing it out. There's no toughing it out and doing the best you can at this point. It's playoff time. There's other guys who are capable on this team. There's other lineups that they can go to here. And so if he's coming back for Sunday and he's ready, he's got to be able to perform. And fortunately, I think we've seen that he can so far for the most part. But it varies night to night, right, John, based on what we've seen so far. There's been great games. There's been games where he hasn't played a lot and has been limited. And those have been the most recent thing we've seen here. So hopefully this treatment put him in a spot that's closer to where he was before. And, when it comes to that thought, John, that, oh, he's fine. I mean, he's not getting a shot if he's fine, right? I think fine means he's not severely injured.
Yeah, again, I'm done speculating on the injury itself because I have no idea.
Right.
And even like based on what the Celtics information they've given or people who've watched him trying to figure out what a shot would be for, what kind of shot you would get, and X, Y, and Z. Even the orthopedic surgeons we've talked to behind the scenes are like, I don't really know. I don't have an opinion. So I'm done speculating about what it is or what it's not. It's just he's either going to play.
We don't know what it is.
He's going to play and look close to himself, all the way himself, or kind of like the guy who was not great in the last few games that we saw him on the court. And that's it. That's what you got. So the rest of it doesn't really matter at this point. What will matter is the finger pointing after the fact if he's a freaking mess. And then you start to question, well, could they have treated it differently? But you're not there yet. Really, you got to get into the playoffs and see. And then just see how long it lasts, right? Like, how long can you ride it out? Like, if he's great, you mentioned the Mitchell thing and he got a shot for whatever he was dealing with last year. If he's great and running out, and doing all of his thing, then you're like, all right, well, hopefully the juice from the shot or whatever treatments he was getting on the side can hang for the length of this thing. If he's out there struggling early on, it's going to be kind of, go game by game and see what you get out of him. But the rest of it doesn't really matter. Jalen's either going to be good or he's not.
Yeah, and
he's
with
not.
that Mitchell
and
situation,
the best case scenario by far is he was sandbagging it a little bit. He's just maybe milking it. Maybe it wasn't that bad, but then he did get the shot, so who knows?
and some time off here. So all that's going to be beneficial. Again, the Mitchell comparison, played great in round 1, played 100% like himself in round 1 after the shot. And his was a PRP, right? Which doesn't appear to be the case here. This one seemed to be more of a pain treatment. So not the most straightforward comparison, but I do think when it comes to this injury, John, it's less about how does he look right now? How does this immediate return look? And more, how does he sustain through the length of a full playoffs? Because we're not looking at can they beat Orlando here. I don't even think we're looking at can they beat Detroit, New York. I think those are things that they're going to do no matter who's out there for the most part. It's where's he at round 3? Where's he at round 4? Months after the treatment here. And that's all stuff that we're going to learn as time goes on here. But I think the news today, what we saw today, and what we're looking forward to this weekend is that he's going to be good to go. To me, he's probably going to look close to himself. And that's all we'll have at that point, if that's how it goes. But it's just going to be, what's it look like the next night? What's it look like the next round? Like, I don't think this is something that's going to go away in my mind.
Unless it was
Nothing
minor and just kind of like, I said, I don't want to say dramatic. I just say it was just, I'm going to be incredibly cautious because I don't love the way this feels right now. And it was just this teeny little thing that he decided I'm going 50, 60% in these games because I'm just going through the motions right now. And it's that's the best case scenario by far. Minor annoyance or irritation that was never really that big a deal. And he comes out and he looks like himself. And then it's not an issue.
So you can be the warrior.
Yeah, so you can be the warrior, and that honestly, that's the best. The best thing is that he was sandbagging us, or that he was bullshitting. So it's the best thing, best thing there by far.
Still doesn't
outside
totally explain the Porzingis comment, though.
But like I said, I can look at it a couple of different ways. Either behind the scenes, the players are like they're watching him play, and they're like, "This doesn't look. If you're not good, dude, sit." But I don't think they knew the extent. I don't think they knew the extent of an injury. They just saw what everybody saw, which was like, this guy's going at like, this guy's less than 50% right now. Why are you out here? Like, if it's really that bad, just don't play. And that's what he was thinking. Because after that game, it was hard to think anything else. You watched it and you're like, ugh, yuck. And I think that's what the Porzingis one was, which is like, just why don't you just sit a couple plays out, champ? So we'll see. It's the big question mark. Hopefully it goes away early and everybody sees something and it's not an issue.
It's fitting for the series too, because I feel like Jaylen being himself makes this a sweep, makes this the 5-game series that many people expect. Puts a lot of the doubt to the side here because he can pick up the pace, he can get to the interior and finish through big defenders, and those are the two things when you look at his game. We know he's able to get shots off right now. We know he's able to play a different way, right? Focus on the passing, all the stuff he talked about the last time we heard from him. But I feel like the two things we know he does at his best and didn't see as much of while he was dealing with this, John, the transition game disappearing, which he acknowledged, and the lack of dunking, the lack of finishing through tough contact inside. Those are things he's going to have to do to make a difference in this series. And so beyond the availability, beyond the severity of this injury, if he's playing, are those things still going to be missing? Like, that's a real question here too. Is he mostly going to be focusing on jump shooting? Is he mostly going to be focusing on passing? I think they need the explosive Jaylen in this series to make the biggest difference. Obviously, you'll take any Jaylen that's effective here, but he to me, and this is why I've always been such a big advocate for him, John, through our many battles on him over the years. He does two things: the forceful, finishing in the paint and the transition game that no one else on this roster can provide. And I'll say it again. If you look back since the beginning of March, this team dropped to dead last in pace. And I think it falls right in line with Brown's sparse availability, his transition numbers going down compared to the last 2 years. And I keep saying it. The Magic are looking at that going into the series and saying, great, we love to play slow. We love to grind the game down to a halt. And based on how the Celtics have played over the last month or two here, whether that's a product of Brown's injury or not, that's the kind of series that the Magic want to play right now. So they need Brown getting the fast break going. They need Brown finishing through contact, getting to the free throw line. And those are the two things we haven't seen him do in recent weeks with this. So hopefully there'll be a resurgence of that after the layoff here, after the treatment. And again, I think today was a very encouraging day just because my expectations were low at where he was going to be following the shot here. And
look, you want me to do the thing that's going to upset everybody? I talked about a classic Patriots move, and anybody who follows other sports would see this classic Patriots move, particularly like heading into the playoffs and stuff like that. When guys were really hurt, the Patriots would trot them out there early on in practice, make it look like they were going through everything and they were in excruciating pain. Tom Brady with the ankle.
I just can't imagine they staged
in 2011. I was at both those Super Bowls. They would walk right out to the podium and try desperately hard not to limp, and they would be out there at the beginning of practice, and then they wouldn't really practice at all because they were bad. So yeah, is there a misdirection by putting somebody out there and pretending or acting like they're totally fine, so the other team isn't like, oh, we can exploit this? Because part of it is people said this all the way through. One of the things about Brown, even if he's not great, and I use the analogy of like the super fast receiver or the really good receiver who's hurt, but you put him out there anyway because you got to cover him, even if he's not. Like, you want Orlando to believe Jaylen Brown is as close to 100% as possible, no question about it, because they have to then devote coverage to him. They've got to play it that way. They got to. Until
they can't take advantage of his limitations.
They can't take advantage. They can't take advantage of it. So there's absolutely a benefit to acting like everything is fine. If there's not, that doesn't mean that's what they were doing today. But there's no question that there's a benefit to doing that. Absolutely. I don't know that that's the case here, and I actually doubt it because I don't think that that's a Joe thing. I actually don't. I don't. I don't think they're playing games, or I don't think there's any subterfuge going on here. But there's certainly coaches in all sports would play this type of mind games where they'll play possum and they'll talk about a guy not being great who's 100% and vice versa because you don't want the team to be prepared for what's actually going to happen. No doubt about it. That's why people lie about injuries all the time. You hide the severity of them, or when they are severe, you try to pretend like there's nothing going on. It's pretty common. I just don't know if that's what's going on here.
Yeah, and that's how I read Holiday's answer because, he went pretty far into, and I asked something similar to the Pritchard question the other day of like, oh, what are you guys going to try to do to pick him up if he's limited at all? And it was like, yeah, if he needs to come out of a game, we'll be ready for that, but he probably won't want to. He's not gonna. Even if he needs to, he's not gonna here. So, yeah, I took those quotes today at face value. I don't think there was an effort internally to just, go out there and say, oh, he's fine. Just say he's fine. Say you look great, blah, blah, blah. To me, seeing the footage, even though it was limited footage, John, of him dunking, of him hitting some, leaners and just participating in the scrimmage, that to me gave me some confidence that, all right, he's at least involved right now. He's at least ready to go. And I wasn't there. I don't think we knew before today. So that's just step one, right? We got to see him in a game. We got to see how much he plays in a game and how effective he is now. But it is a step. And what are we missing in that footage, John? Maybe some moments where he looked uncomfortable. Maybe some moments where he, came up lame. Maybe some moments where he was struggling a little bit. I think we saw the best of, right?
Look, Bobby, we did this. We did this all year with Chris. We did this all playoffs with Kristaps Porzingis every time he went out to shoot, and we were like, "Look, he looks fine." And it's like they're just putting up shots here. There's not much.
No, I'm saying the scrimmage tape that the team put out.
Yeah. That was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. And what we saw was nothing today, just shooting around and free throws or whatever else, not much movement. So we ourselves didn't see much. If that's all we had to go off, I think there'd be a little bit more ambiguity, there. But the footage that they put out, him dunking, him looking like he was fully involved there, to me was a positive. And again, there could have been some missing moments there where he was struggling a little more. But to me, today's a win. It's a good first step. A lot of this stuff to me is going to be day by day here and game by game, especially. But you got this whole week, John, and then game 1 to game 2. I think it'll probably be. Hopefully, we get a schedule while we're on the air here. But I think there'll probably only be one day off between games 1 and 2. But then you have a 2-day layoff between games 2 and 3, typically here. So a lot more layoff early on here. A lot more time to get treatment and just assess this thing rather than later in the playoffs, where it's going to be full go every other day, more challenging opponents, all the rest here. So, what was I saying, John? My panic meter went up to a 6. Today, I'm back down to a 3, 4.
Good work.
I'm not panicking as much about this.
I'm proud of you. Couple things we want to note here, and we'll keep it going for a little bit longer here on the preview show. And you guys want to throw in some comments, we're more than happy to chat, but we do want to let you know that you can, of course, subscribe to this podcast if you want to listen to it, if you're not watching it, or you can't watch it one night and you want to listen to it. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want, leave a rating and review. That would be terrific as well. And of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel, be it the main channel or Celtics All Access YouTube channel. You can find this show and a lot of other great Celtics content on that channel. And this is the best time to do that because we're heading into the playoffs and everybody's going to be bringing it. And again, I'm sure many of you are familiar with some of the terrific shows that we have here on the network, but among them are Celtics Beat with Adam Kaufman and Evan Valenti. You have the Cedric Maxwell podcast with Cedric Maxwell and Josue Pavone. Big 3 podcast with Sherrod Blakely, Gary Washburn, Kwani Lunis. You've got Tangway. You got the boomers. You got Tangway, real boomers, not fake, but real boomers.
The guys from Celtic City.
Tangway and Ryan and of course Jeff Goodman. You've got First to the Floor, who I love. You've got How About Them Seas with Jack Simone. You got Boston with Noah. You've got Still Potable with Jay King and Brian Robb. So again, our cup runneth over with Celtics content right now, and you can catch all of it here. In addition to what will pretty much be daily shows from here on out, whether we're covering a game or we're doing off day stuff, you can pretty much expect once these games begin to get some level of Garden Report stuff on a regular basis as we kind of roll through. So by all means, support us and subscribe. Turn on your notifications so we know that
You
when
might
new
hear from
videos drop.
Jaylen tomorrow too at practice.
I think we
It's
will, and we're
possibility.
back at practice tomorrow. So yeah, and you should always check that out. And Bobby's going to have practice reports as well. And anything we have to report, we will definitely put it out there. I'm throwing this out there because it doesn't really matter. Celtics lost the season series to the Magic 2-1. The Magic snuck up on them in that first game. Jason Tatum wasn't there, and the last one was all scrubs, so it doesn't necessarily factor into anything here. But as we know, they play them in round one with game one on Sunday. Time still TBD. Bobby, any closing thoughts on the Orlando Magic here before we move on?
I'm excited. It's new, it's fresh. It's a good test. And to me, John, I don't know how you feel about it, but when I was looking ahead at this for weeks, I've been running my numbers and tabulating who is going to be. This is the team I wanted to see. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Again, you had Goga Batadze and Porzingis going to blows in that first game over, I think, like Goga grabbed Kristaps by the neck or something in the skirmish. You had last year, I think it was last year, right? Eddie House dissed the Magic before that play-in game. And I remember going to a shoot-around before the next home game that the Celtics played against the Magic. And Cole Anthony was pissed. Like, I didn't even bring it up. And he was like, yeah, Eddie House was saying what he said about us. So, we're coming in here and we're trying to, make a statement and blah, blah. And I bet to this day, whether it's a year ago, 2 years ago, I forget when that was now, I bet they're still pissed about what Eddie House said. And this is a team that has a real edge. They have a very emotional coach in Jamal Mosley, who's really like a leader of men type guy who, gets them going, who I think plays up some stuff like that. Obviously gets them to play like hell defensively, given what they've done this year. So there's going to be some beef in this series. There's going to be some tense moments. Again, I point out the officiating with Tatum. Like, there's going to be some real frustrating moments for Tatum with the officiating here in this series that he's going to have to overcome. You're going to have Cole Anthony barking at the Celtics throughout this series, and you saw what he did late tonight. Big shot maker, really energetic, fiery player, and a guy who's going to have to drive that Magic offense at times. And then again, the star power. Love Wagner. His shot looks broken right now. So, I don't love that for the Magic, but Paolo finished the year great. One of my favorite players in the league. Obviously a guy who's, got a relationship with, Tatum with the Duke thing there too. So they've bonded a little bit over the years, but now this is Paolo's chance to go at him a little bit. So I'm excited about this. I think there's some ways that the Magic can make the Celtics work a little bit here. Like, is that going to make everyone freak out? Just saying that the Magic are going to make the Celtics work a little bit here. They're going to make it tough. These aren't going to be easy games. It's going to be a difficult style for Boston. But they're more than capable of winning these games, even if it comes down to the wire, even if it, requires a comeback in a game or two here. I think the road games will be interesting because that's been a little bit of a house of horrors for Boston recently. But first two games at home should be there for the taking. They've been shaky at home a little bit at times this year, John. So I won't totally.
You just talked yourself out of it. You said it and you stopped.
I backpedaled a little bit because we know they've had some issues at home lately. And you know what, John? Did they lose game one last year, or was that game two to the Heat? I think it was game two, I want to say.
Yeah.
So they had an early stumble last year too. Wouldn't be stunned if they had one again here, but no reason to freak out. You can get right on the road, and they've been outstanding on the road this year, as we know. So I'm just glad, the Hawks, it would have just been sweep, on to the next one. That would have been our whole conversation tonight if it was the Hawks. And at least we can have a conversation about this series, and there's some intrigue and there's some star power. And I think there's some lessons you can carry forward to later in the playoffs from this one. I don't know where you fall on that, John. Do you want the easy series, or do you want the one you can learn from and draw from?
It doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
The
Like, look,
test.
it doesn't matter because it shouldn't matter. Like, you can play like crap. You look at like the '08 Celtics and you go back there, they got better as time went on, and they played a 7-game series against a crap Hawks team. They didn't learn anything from that there. So you don't need to be tested and this and that. And like, you don't need everything to be easy. From a fan perspective, you always want something to be fun, right? Like, I know everyone is anxious to win and just move ahead, but like, you remember the easy stuff less than you remember the hard stuff. So like,
The
I want
Pacers
something.
series last year.
Yeah, Pacers was awesome. It was wild, even though it was a 4-game sweep. It was the most competitive series that they played in by far. Wild, super fun thing. But like, every matchup is different. So I don't think one prepares you for another versus another. Like, look, if you were playing Orlando right before you were about to play OKC, you might be like, okay, that's good. This is a good tune-up because they're a very physical defense. They're the second best defense. You're about to play the first, the best defense. So this will kind of toughen you up. Here, you have no risk of losing to the Magic because you're going to just overwhelm them offensively, and they just can't score enough to keep up with you. So that's a good test because you'll be battle tested for that. But it's so early in it. I don't think anything that happens in round one is going to prepare them for anything that happens later necessarily.
It would be funny though if it's Orlando, then it's Detroit, and I don't know who the most physical round. Milwaukee, maybe. If it's like 3 straight series of a team that just smashes in you every play.
Tough. Detroit's tough.
It's a little bit of a different style, a team than they faced a year ago, dude.
Yeah, Cleveland's not that. Cleveland defensively slipped a lot second half, especially post All-Star break.
I don't think of them as super physical. They're good defense, but
they had an amazing offense. Yeah, I mean, they were just offensively just a great team.
And that's what you need, right? And that's why, as we sit here and we prognosticate over this, the Magic offense, here we are in minute 57, finally saying this. The Magic offense just isn't good enough. They can't hit threes. They can't produce threes. They got some terrible shooters. And throughout this game, John, there were some moments of doubt where the Hawks got back into it a little bit because the Magic are just missing some of the good shots they produce. They're going cold for stretches. You'll have the 3-4 minute stretch where they're not scoring. You mentioned it earlier. Paolo actually wasn't very good putting the ball in the basket in this game, as good as he was overall. He had a very poor shooting night. And this team is about as bad offensively as you could ever imagine a playoff team being, a 7 seed nonetheless here. So there's some real problems there. I was listening to Lowe, who's, fortunately back, on the air now. And he was even kicking around like, is that coach there in Orlando safe with how bad that offense has been this year? Because it's been really, really bad. And you mentioned the injuries, John. Paolo was out for a stretch. Franz was out for a stretch. But it remained really bad when those guys got back. And they've been back for a while now. And they finished the year, 27th in offense? I mean, if you're talking about the difference between two teams in a playoff series, like what the Celtics offense is and what the Magic's offense is, it's about as big of a gap between two units as you could possibly imagine. So if you're looking at that and you're a fan right now and you're saying the Celtics are going to blow through this team because of how different these offenses are, how big the gap is between these two offenses, I can't blame you because it's awful on that Orlando side. And you said it, John. They couldn't score 100 against Pritchard and Cornette and Davison and Peterson and Miles Norris a week ago. And they mostly had everybody for that game. So that's what I'd be worried about if I'm a Magic fan. They can't keep up with the Celtics offense. And, again, I'm not making a prediction tonight, but you can feel pretty good about the Celtics winning this series.
It's not what Cranberry Kisses thinks. And it's the only Orlando fan I know. And so I'm going to take him at his word because we found the one Orlando Magic fan and he's in this chat. And he's given everybody the business here. That's that. Bobby, I hate to tell you this.
I'm so sick of hearing this.
Your takes are terrible and you're not a Celtics fan. Because
can we explain this for just a second, please?
I know that the championship is already ours. I already know. You're not a fan, Bobby. What's wrong with you?
I hear this every day and it's driving me crazy. I'm not a fan. I'm here to be neutral, to try to give you if you want to hear from the fans,
don't even bother.
if you want to hear from the fans, go to your group chat, go stay in this chat. We still want you to watch.
No, we want you. Sort
but
of.
talk-
Not all of you. Some of you. Most of you.
Talk to the fellow fans in here. Tell each other how the Celtics are the best and they're the greatest team ever. And you'll be in a
That's
happy
great.
place. But if you want to hear something neutral, if you want to hear something, removed from fandom, that's what I'm trying to give you.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
if you don't like that, I'm sorry. There's a lot of analysts out there who are going to give you the fan perspective. I'm not giving you that. If this is a tough series, John, and I'm not saying it's going to be, I want to make everybody aware that it's going to be a tough series.
Guys, let me address this one too. Guys, what do you want? What do you want out of this conversation? Celtics are going to win in 4. Good night. Like we're literally
I haven't even said a prediction.
Literally just laying out how could this possibly be bad? Because what else are you going to freaking talk about? My God, like Jesus, some people are just spoiling for a fight.
And I feel like I'm giving the Celtics their credit. I'm giving them, like I just said it, their offense is a million times better than the Magic. It's going to be really difficult for Orlando to overcome that. But the Magic are tough. They're tough as hell. So is that, can you take both sides? I'm giving them a lot of credit. I'm pointing out things that could be challenging for the Celtics here. I don't know. Can't make everybody happy.
No, or anybody happy. But yeah, it's like I said, I've said it. I've said it from the get-go. I'm not going to say it again. It doesn't really matter.
I feel really good about Porzingis in this series, by the way.
I do as well. I think
that's real strength.
Yes. Otherwise, we're going to probably come back on here and we'll do some other stuff later in the week. We're going to do a goofy show that's going to revolve around apologies. So if people want to see us eat some of our own words from earlier in the season and beyond, maybe we'll give you an opportunity there as well. But other than that, Bobby, get some help.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know. But we thank you guys for the super chats here. It helps helps us send our people on the road here. Like I said, let's Bobby stay at a slightly nicer hotel than he stayed in Dallas.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do
Orlando's
a
going
prediction.
to be great, though.
We'll do prediction. We may look back at some of our bold predictions from earlier in the season as well, even though not all of them have been resolved, but some have. We might look at those. When did we do that show last year, Bobby? Did we do it after the regular season, before the playoffs, or after the season?
Good question. I don't remember.
Yeah,
we should do it now though, because we could do some like new playoff predictions. Potentially, but yeah, I'd have to imagine
some of them were awards based, but yeah, we might do that. We might look at some.
We don't know good point. We don't know the awards yet, so we're gonna have to wait till after the playoffs probably, because those kind of get sprinkled in throughout the playoffs, right?
Yeah, we're gonna apologize to Magic fans. We'll do that.
Oh, my point on the Magic fans. I love Magic fans because it's like a small group, right?
I miss Raptors fans, but yeah,
they're newer school, right? It's an expansion team, but you had those Shaq years, you had those Penny years, you had those Dwight years. And again, we're calling back, John, to those, what was it, 08, 09 they lost, and then 2010 the Celtics beat them back there. There were some really great battles in those years. It was pretty cool hearing Stan Van Gundy on the call tonight, too. Like, I hope we can get taken back to those years where there was some real battles between these two teams and these two fan bases. I'm sure it's still going to be Celtics heavy in the road games down there, but you heard the crowd tonight. They were chanting, "We want Boston." You do actually have, I think, a representative fan base down there in Orlando that's actually going to be, if it's a real series here, fighting back a little bit. But it's been challenging this year for the road teams. They really haven't been able to overcome that swell of Celtics fans that have just invaded their arenas. And I know there's a lot of Celtics fans down in Florida too. So,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing what the atmosphere is like there.
Yeah, the Raptors fans are the best. They were great. But we welcome Orlando fans in here. And sure, if you if you win a game, steal a game, or make the series competitive, you absolutely get a chance to jump in here or go anywhere and friggin' puff out your chest and let us know about it. We'll see how that goes. But again, game 1 Sunday, we're guessing in the afternoon, so we'll see what happens with that one. But we are going to be here. As we said, we'll be doing more shows throughout the week. Bobby's going to be getting special guests. So again, subscribe to our YouTube channel, as I mentioned earlier. Turn on your notifications so you get notified when new videos pop up, but also follow us on Twitter. These are our personal handles or the CLNS handle. And we'll be promoting when our shows will come up throughout the week, because like I said, we will have more stuff coming in here. One more shout out to our pals over at Game Time. You want to get in and check out some Celtics games in the playoffs, or really anything, a concert, doesn't matter what. Download that app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Once again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, the Celtics, as we now know, are going to take on the Orlando Magic in round 1. Game 1 is Sunday at TD Garden. We have you covered with all your Celtics needs throughout the playoffs. We're hoping for another long postseason run, but like I said, keep it here with CLNS. Follow Bobby Manning, all his written work. He's going to be on the road with the team, bringing you in-depth coverage. We'll be back at practice tomorrow, so we'll have more information there as well. And we will see you guys next time. Take care. No one's sneaking a vegan brownie by me, I'll tell you that.
Okay, you know what, John? We're going to do it.
You have to feel that way too, Bobby.
I have to feel that way.
Let's
Let's fight out over and make Luke your first center.
Bobby, we gave you Luke an hour early. We're not going to end this on a damn conversation about Luke